Nothing about this looks remotely, and people were wondering where that shot came from. Oh yeah, there's the really skinny chick that fancies herself looking like a man all the time and everything she's in. But
Tignataro or whatever her name is, yeah.
here's another black actress that they picked, put an alien mask on her, but she still had to be overweight. I will never understand what Hollywood does when they come up with this. Renegade Online. This is new Star Trek. We're getting there. This is the last.
Oh, I thought this was the American jeans lady.
Not a well, it might be. I saw the headline and the picture, and I'm like, dear Jesus, I feel so bad for Skydance right now.
I don't.
When I say that what is with the stereotyping of overweight black women? It's like, we want to have diversity in a show. And that's what this is about, because 99 times out of 100, this is always what it's about. It's just about checking diversity boxes on a Hollywood chart for HR. And remember, we talked about a story a few days ago where Skydance seemed to make it really clear that, hey, we don't have a DEI department, and we have no plans to continue the DEI department at Paramount when this merger closes in 2 weeks. So that's gone. You still have stuff like this from, the Kurtzman bad robot kind of stuff, which are doing the Star Trek things. And Tom, I'm glad you're here for this because you know this part better than I do. So hang on, I got a question for you in a minute. But the idea here is, okay, you want to have a diverse lead. You want to have a black female lead. Why do we keep casting ones that are big girls? It's almost kind of insulting. Like, does Hollywood believe that every young black woman is overweight, obese? This is a trope, and it's a weird trope. I don't understand this. Like, they think that can you not cast a physically fit, attractive young black woman that more audiences would look at and go, oh, she's hot. I might watch that show. Right? You could do that. You don't want to do it. But what I love is the headline. This is a new Star Trek show that's premiering very soon. And Skydance is probably wishing that they had the ability to shove this turd back in the horse right now, because we're getting one of the most diverse Star Trek shows ever. Again, look at the headline. Star Trek goes full Gen Z. Yes, this is actually in the headline of the Hollywood Reporter describing the new Star Trek show. Goes full Gen Z in first trailer for Starfleet Academy. We are going after audiences for Star Trek that don't exist.
They do realize that this is like generation quadruple Z, right? Actually, probably more than that.
Probably, yeah. It's probably at least 20 generations away from now. But
more than that even, probably, yeah. Because this is supposed to be like even 100 years past the original Star Trek, so yeah.
Yeah, there's something like the show's premise is they're returning to Starfleet in San Francisco after being gone for 120 years. It's in the trailer. And I'm a little leery about playing the whole trailer because sometimes Paramount can get a little weird with copyright. So y'all can go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's on X. The teaser trailer for Star Trek Starfleet Academy is here, and it's different vibe than traditional Trek. I'm sorry. This looks exactly like every bit of Star Trek that we've gotten, minus season 3 of Picard, maybe, in the last 6-7 years since Discovery and all that crap started. It looks the same. What are they talking about? It's the same. Oh my God, what is this? We really gonna have a whole show focused around a bunch of young cadets at Starfleet Academy? And I mean, the most interesting thing in the show may be Paul Giamatti playing some kind of villain, but I don't know. But the trailer below debuted this weekend at San Diego Comic-Con, and it's Holly Hunter plays the chancellor, or the commandant of the academy or whatever. It really would have been a lot funnier if it had been like Eric Lassard. If they just brought him back, bring back George Gaines, and just have him do Commandant Lassard as head of Starfleet. I would watch that. Police Academy, Starfleet, yes. What's more interesting about the footage, and sure to be debated by a long time, read old Star Trek fans, you know, those of us that actually made this franchise valuable and made it lots of money over time, kind of like us old Star Wars fans that Kennedy didn't want around anymore, are the visuals of the young cast as they bond, flirt, dance, and look longingly at the stars. This already sounds terrible. Yes. The show, which has already been renewed for a second season, the first one hasn't even come out yet, hadn't even premiered, feels rather different than previous iterations of a franchise that launched in the post-World War II era and for decades focused on military-style teams with a mission. What? Military-style teams with a mission? I've never heard OG Star Trek or even TNG or Deep Space Nine really defined that way. It doesn't make any sense. Here's the issue, right? And they go back to Star Trek Discovery. Tom, you still with me?
Yep. For a few more minutes here, I'll give you.
Okay, here's the big question is, because a lot of people are going to ask, they're probably already asking in the chat. I hadn't got a chance to glance over there yet. Skydance comes in. Can Skydance just go, nope? No. You've already got the season. We'll put it out. We're canceling the second season. The problem is that they have a standing contract still with Kurtzman and the crew, do they not?
Yes, and well, okay. I've heard a couple different things, and my understanding, and again, take this with a grain of salt, because I don't know if this has been officially put out there yet, but this is what I keep basically hearing, is that this Strange Nude Worms, there's 2 seasons they're going to put out yet, but it's basically like 10 episodes or 12 episodes split up into 2 seasons. They're shooting it all at once, or it's already done shot.
Yeah.
This is another like Hail Mary thing. And from what I've been hearing is that Skydance, once they take over, is planning on moving on from this and probably restructuring Star Trek, which is probably the best bet. But if he manages to pull off something here with this, maybe there's a chance for Kurtzman's future in Star Trek, but I just don't foresee it. But then again, I don't know, because supposedly they have to buy him out of his contract. I think that was not just his contract, but
and it's not cheap.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I think you were alluding to, is that I guess there's something out there that I can't confirm, but has been talked about in several different places or hinted at outside of our sphere, which proves some of our early reporting on this, that Secret Hideout does actually have some investment in Star Trek, like in a sense that Kurtzman has to be bought out.
Yeah.
And the number is not real low, I guess. So
no,
yeah,
and that's the problem. And I think they made the mistake of, he had his run and then they kind of renewed it and they extended it because at the time, people at Paramount were in a lot of flux, right? And they didn't want to have, and I think this was part of the problem, is that they probably went to say, okay, well, Kurtzman's the guy been doing it. A lot of people aren't happy with it, but at least we're selling it to Netflix. At least we're kind of making some money somewhere. And
right.
if we have a dead Star Trek franchise, then if somebody does come in to buy us out at Paramount CBS, we're not nearly as attractive as, at least we can't price it to where we have an active major IP that is producing content currently. Like
there is that side of it too, right? Yeah, like they told him, get these 2 shows out just so we have some, kind of like the whole Star Wars deal, right? Remember that whole deal? If you read the book Bob Iger put out there, and this was confirmed in other places too, where the deal went down basically that their number crunchers came back with a number that George wasn't happy with. Mm-hmm. So Bob was like, well, put a new trilogy into production. Mm-hmm. And then we can maybe bump that number up, because the problem they had was the only thing that they were producing over at Lucasfilm was, a few scattered video games and a TV show. And he's like, I can't get the number higher than that off of that, because you hadn't put out a movie in 20 years almost at that point. So yeah, it's kind of, I totally agree with you. They could very well just be that here. And then once this is said and done, it doesn't matter. They're going to move on. But the problem is a lot of the problems with Star Trek and everything else, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to beat this drum because it's so true, Skydance is part of the problem. So I wouldn't be surprised if nothing changes when it comes to Star Trek.
And it may not.
It may not. Like it may just seem like business as usual going forward.
It's either way, it's going to take several years before we see.
But the problem we have here with Star Trek is that it was a franchise that was very successful. It had a niche audience, and at one time, I believe the magic number was somewhere between $30 and $35 million is what it brought in annually for merchandise sales. But once Kurtzman got involved, that went down dramatically. But the problem we had here is that they saw Star Trek as such a niche brand that I think they kind of looked at it as a failing brand at that point. And Les Moonves is somebody who just didn't understand Star Trek.
Yeah.
So when he brought in Kurtzman, and I say this a lot because I've heard it so many different places, is we don't see Kurtzman as the same way they do in Hollywood, right? Like him doing this was more like a slumming it thing for Kurtzman. Like he was doing CBS a favor, right? Like people don't understand that when I say that, but it's true. Like this guy has done nothing but bring in, money for the company outside of this, right? He was part of Hawaii Five-0 and all these other shows that have done well. The bigger problem for them was, if you look back, when he fucked up Clarice, that was when CBS had a bigger issue with him than anything he's done for Star Trek. But otherwise, the only times we've ever heard that they were unhappy with him was when, the Metalis thing with Picard season 3, they're like, well, what the hell? This was a success and why ain't nothing else? He came up with a bunch of excuses and got defensive from what we heard. But at that point, that was where it was guaranteed Metalis was never coming back. And he was going to be the leader of this whole thing and going forward. And maybe that's part of the problem, is since he was shaken at that moment, he's been maybe doubled down on this whole idea that Star Trek is his baby or something like that, maybe, or some shit. You got to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, and I don't want to play with the sound. I don't think I have the sound up anyway, but y'all can.
But you're right. But my whole point was getting to is that they've lost so much of the regular crowd that the only crowd they might have left now is this Zoomer/woke crowd.
And this is when there's Holly Hunter, right? And
so they're probably playing to that crowd, and that's all they got left now. So,
how that crowd cannot be big, because I'm gonna tell you right now. I mean, the Gen Z and all this kind of stuff, I don't know. They're not watching this anyway. I mean, they're not in any kind of real numbers. I mean, the audience for this show, I bet when it comes out, and again, I don't remember if we had anything since, I don't remember if Paramount Plus, the last Star Trek show that was airing, I don't think I've ever seen them pop up on Illuminate chart. And they do episodic drops of these shows. So it's not, it's on Paramount.
My understanding is that Picard season 3 is the only thing that ever charted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's the last thing I'm aware of.
Strange New Worlds, I think, has come close, or at least it did have a bit of a following beyond the wokey wokes. But
that was on this is about a bunch of just very diverse kids at school.
Oh, I said at this point, why don't they just call it Star Trek DEI? Because that's literally what it is. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
And this, I don't know what they're doing with this show. This is another one of Kurtzman's things that he's been announced since day one. And he finally got it out of his system, I guess. I don't know. Like Section 31, which was a huge disaster for them.
I don't think this is going to be a whole lot different. I mean, you look at some of this, and the fate of Benjamin Sisko, and she's walking around. They're doing their callbacks to the Deep Space Nine era. Nothing about this looks remotely. And people were wondering where that shot came from. Oh yeah, there's the. I can't remember her name. She always pops up in these weirdest places. It's the really skinny chick that fancies herself looking like a man all the time and everything she's in.
Tig Notaro or whatever her name is. Yeah.
There you go. Here's another black actress that they picked, put an alien mask on her, but she still had to be overweight. I will never understand what Hollywood does when they come up with this. Again.
Well, the other problem with this is, like, you also have a situation where a lot of people, non-white people in the past that were actors, would complain that sometimes these were the kind of roles they would get delegated to, right? So here you are doing it again.
Right.
Like, I agree with you. Like, if you want to give us a lead, like, Sisko is one of the more fan favorites, right? So, like,
I've been rewatching I didn't even know this show was coming out. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been going back and rewatching Deep Space Nine. I mean, it's a great show.
I mean, like, if you gave us somebody like Mr. Terrific, right, as a character in Superman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give him like a type of captain like that, I think people would be fine with it, right? Yeah. Even make him a Vulcan or something. It doesn't. It's just that calm coolness about him. It's like, it's the way you present these characters. It's the way the things that they do that we see that make them who they are. We love Captain Kirk, we didn't love him from the first episode, right? Mm-hmm. No, we loved him because over time we saw who he was and what he became. And really, by the time you get to the movies, that's why it's such an important thing for us, especially in like Wrath of Khan and stuff, when he loses Spock and all that business. We're there with him. We're right next with him to him, feeling that loss. And that's because we care about the character, right? Yeah. We know who this person is. We've grown to love this character. These characters are thrusted in these shows and we're just told we're supposed to love these characters.
Michael Burnham.
Exactly. Michael Burnham being the prime example, right? Like, the whole show is like, I mean, she's Riri Williams ground zero, right? Like, in a sense of
That was
every
the only time they
talk,
cast a black woman in a role who wasn't overweight that I can remember now that I say
exactly. But at the same time, all you get to hear about her is that how much of a genius she is and how she's the best at this and the best at everything.
They didn't need anybody else on the ship but her.
No,
she could have done the whole 3 seasons.
It got so bad in the earlier parts that because here's the thing with Star Trek that I always loved is like, even shows that I was never really into or never really got a chance to get watched of Star Trek yet, because there is actual Star Trek I have yet to explore, and I will at some point. I just haven't had a chance to yet. I know the characters though, right? Because they're so well known, they're well defined. People know these characters. They talk about them all the time. There was characters on Discovery I still couldn't tell you their fucking names because they aren't any. They're just props. They're just there. It got so bad we had to come up with nicknames for them.
Well,
because
this show, I think the thing that is most, why wouldn't you want to try? Hey, you know what? We need to take a crack at actually getting all the old Star Trek fans back in. They left us. We need to try something different. But no, they do more of the same. And the big thing here, it's not just about you got we have another overweight black woman character trope that they're clearly going for here. By the way, there was another person they wanted to cast for this role, but she wasn't available. Just saying, right here, Paramount had her in the wings.
Oh, I get that reference.
I know you do. By the way, for those of you who don't know, that's April O'Neil from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, also done by Paramount recently. Yeah. Not kidding.
You, Rogan, get away from my turtles.
And like they animated. They didn't just cast somebody. They animated a white, Irish, red-haired, big, voluptuous, April O'Neil from the original, and then turned her into a 5-foot-tall, potato-shaped, overweight black woman.
What's funny is I think the woman that even voiced her was skinnier than
it's bizarre. They
didn't even model it after the woman who did her voice was my point, but yeah.
I know. And again, so the thing is here, why do old Star Trek fans want to come in and watch a show that's about Gen Z? We are sick of Gen Z. The world is largely sick of Gen Z. Nobody wants to watch Gen Z.
They keep making the mistake of it, though, is that Gen Z, all the stuff that they're into is stuff that Star Trek is all beyond, right? Like, Star Trek is beyond skin color. Star Trek is beyond sexual preference and all this bullshit. Yeah. These shows making it all about that goes against the prime directive of Star Trek in general. And I don't mean like the prime directive they have in the show, but against the idea that Star Trek is we're at this place as Earthlings that we are so far beyond all this petty bullshit amongst ourselves. Mm-hmm. that we always run into this adversity in other places, and it's where we pass on what we have learned to allow them to make the decision that works best for them, right? Like that's what Kirk and Picard were kind of doing all the time, right? Like they could encounter a situation where they're like, in our Earth's history, we had similar events, and these people, they survived on this, blah, 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 blah. And he'd give out this speech, we'd like, but now it's up to you to make these choices. And that's kind of what Star Trek was before. If you wanted to do an allegory story, you did it within the context of an alien or some other event that had nothing to do with the personality. Like, these shows are so wretched to watch. Like, I got to a point where it was mentally unhealthy for me. Like, I literally begged Andre, I'm like, can we please stop doing this? Like, it's getting to a point where I'm not even kidding. Yeah. Like, I was like, this is really f***ing with me mentally at this point where I can't do this. Like, it's like self-torture. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like I'm forcing myself to do something that I just cannot do anymore. And at this point, the show, all it was talk about pronouns and this gay character and that gay character and this sideline about how Mikey Burnham is the savior of all. It's like, I don't need this anymore. And I didn't watch Strange New Worlds because of that. I watched a little bit of Lower Decks. And honestly, that was probably one of the better things we got out of this. But even that was one of those things where, like, this is pissing on the legacy of Star Trek. And what's sad is this is the only show that gives a shit about the legacy of Star Trek. And that's all it's doing is pissing on it. Right. So, and then so I'm sure every other show, because even Picard was unwatchable. And I watched a couple episodes of the 3rd season and I'm just like, okay, it's better than what it had been. But we're at this point with Star Trek where it is such a dead fucking franchise that I don't know if anybody could revive it if they wanted to. I think they're going to try, but I don't know what you think on that. But yeah, I agree. This is not the avenue to keep going. This is not the the look to have right now, especially when you're trying to.
Right. It didn't work the last 5 times we did it, so let's do it again.
Yeah, it's not going off of the Sydney Sweeney ad that we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
A perfect example is, what did they do? They went back to basics, right? That's why I brought up the Kate Moss Marky Mark campaign, is because that's a perfect example of, you just go back to the basics and look what happens, right? Because I think even that Marky Mark campaign, I think somebody brought it up in the chat, so I can't remember who brought it up, but just to give credit to where credit's due, I think they brought up that was almost just kind of a play on what they had done with Brooke Shields 10 years earlier, right? So again, that was what brought them into fame to begin with, and they just went back to what worked. You went back to formula, to steal a quote from Spider-Man, right? That's what Star Trek needs to do, is to go back to formula at this point. Embrace the retrofuturism. Be what made Star Trek popular to begin with.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.